Hi, welcome to Enter the Bunker, where we launch you into thriving. Each week we talk about a different virtue that can be used as a building brick to build your own personal bunkers. We share personal stories, as well as tips and tricks to help you thrive instead of survive. So sit down, relax, and enter the bunker.
Hello and welcome to Enter the Bunker. This week's part 2 for faithfulness. My name's Kelly.
And I'm Jonathan.
And we're going to go over how to practice faithfulness. So we have 3 things to go over here. I'll go over them all individually and then we'll go into depth with each one.
Let's do it.
The first one, be honest. 2, respect others. 3, practice loyalty. So be honest. Tell the truth. The best way to be true to people, the people we love, is to be truthful always. Make sure to include yourself in the people you love. If you aren't able to be honest with yourself, it is very difficult to be honest with others. So, yeah. I remember like my mom telling me as a kid, because like you lie as a kid, but that's how you learn like lying's bad.
Okay.
So you lie as a kid, and I remember my mom, like I don't remember if it was me specifically, if it was somebody else, but I remember like the life lesson from it.
Right.
And that was that one lie turns into another lie, that turns into another lie. And then before you know it, your story is all over the place. And then you're getting your story mixed up. And then the people know you're lying because you've literally told them one thing and now you're telling them another because you can't keep your lies straight anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely, I've experienced that firsthand. So,
From you doing it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I mean, it wasn't a huge ordeal or anything. It wasn't over anything crazy, but it was just like something little and as a kid. But I remember that life lesson because I didn't know what my up from down was at the end of all the lies. Like,
Right.
yeah. So I guess it says here to be truthful to yourself because, oh, you also hear about people, you know, they're lying, but like they are dead set that they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
Like that's how much that they've lied to themselves, that they actually believe it.
Yes.
So I guess that's why it's so important to be truthful to yourself first, so that way you can project it to other people.
Yes.
Because if you're going to be to yourself, then you're not going to, if you're going to be truthful to yourself, you're not going to go off and lie to other people because it's just not who you are at that point.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's funny what causes people to sometimes not be honest in that
Yeah.
sense. It's weird. It's
It
almost
could be
like
so many things.
yeah, and
Scared.
a lot of it has to do with fear.
Yeah, fear.
A lot of
Yeah.
it has to do with how they perceive themselves
Yeah.
and fear that they're going to get in trouble or
Mhm.
something like that, and they will just create a whole other thing. And it's really to me, it's very foreign
Mhm.
because I just don't do that.
Yeah.
But for others, I see how they can very quickly, like off the cuff, they'll just start creating a story.
I know.
You know, there's some people I know who actually, like, even if there isn't any reason
To lie.
to lie, they do.
Yeah.
Like they'll make up a story to embellish how they look or
Like
or
I call that like exaggerating. Like you know some
Yeah.
part of the story is true,
yeah.
but you know not all of it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, not being honest really is really affecting how you can be faithful, like in terms of like in how you can practice it. And honesty though is tricky in the terms of like it says tell the truth and it said, you know, we love, says people we love, like the best way is to be truthful to people we love
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
And it's one thing about when people have it in terms of practicing honesty, it's not just what you tell, it's what you don't tell.
I
Right.
was like pondering here in my head and I was like, what if you don't tell the whole story?
Yeah, and that's probably another way of not being honest. And I think that sometimes that's where discernment comes in,
Yeah.
you know, because sometimes it's not that you're trying to hide something,
No.
but sometimes you should have said something,
Yeah.
right? How often is it, especially these days, where something isn't right
Yeah.
and nobody says anything?
Right.
So,
time.
so is that it, are the people being honest at that point?
Yeah.
Is that something that is being dishonest, right?
Right.
So it's almost like the inaction is the choice of action.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you're not being honest.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's actually eroded a lot of people's faith in a lot of things now
Yeah.
because it's happening on a mass scale.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like I said, when it comes to just the ability to be able to be honest but then not, but also being open, being able to have a strength for actually speaking to truth
Yeah.
when you know it's there, and being honest about it, so difficult for a lot of people, because the fact is that you're in circumstances where you may be alone,
Yeah.
right? You may be telling the truth alone, and then you're going to be facing, a group of people who don't agree.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what really matters is
You-
standing by what you know is right.
You're truthful to yourself.
Truthful to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting. I like that little chat. Okay, number 2 is respect others. A large part of practicing being faithful is respect. Respect for yourself, respect for others. Respect their time. Be present, listen. Letting other people know you are there for them is one of the greatest feelings you can give someone. When you do this, it is likely to be returned, and that is how you will build a group of people who can depend on each other. What is a better way to thrive than having that? So, we've kind of talked, I feel like we've talked about being present and listen, and we've talked about that in previous building bricks. I'm not sure exactly which one it was. They all kind of all tie into each other. But, I mean, I think respect, that should just be an automatic thing. Again, what was the quote? At the top, it was something you should want to do it. I think respect
Yeah.
kind of, if you're going to be respectful, you're going to be faithful. I think they kind of come hand in hand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think where, like, of all the things we're talking about here in terms of respect, the
Yeah.
one part of that that really stands out to me is respect their time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people really struggle with that because we kind of live in our own dimension, like our own dimension. we live
That's what I feel like.
we do, like
Yeah.
we have our own, like all of us have our own little world,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so when we go to do something, or when we're talking to someone, we feel it's kind of like, it's not necessarily a selfish thing, but it's like a thing where we're only seeing it from our perspective, right? And we're not necessarily seeing that when we're doing something, we're taking up somebody else's time, into whatever it is that's going on.
Yeah.
But if there's an expectation of, for example, showing up on time, right? That's probably the number one thing. You can even just look at just any job,
Yeah.
right? It's like one of the fundamentals is show up on time.
Yeah.
Right.
Your shift starts at 8 a.m.
Yeah. So and what does that show? That
Yeah.
shows respect.
Yeah.
Because it's not just respect for the job, it's respect for yourself. It's respect for the people you work with
Yeah.
to actually be there so that everybody can get on with the tasks they need to.
Yeah.
Right. And it's such and so it says something that a lot of people don't necessarily have that respect for other people's time. And that shows a lack of faithfulness on that person in terms of that person like expressing faithfulness to others in doing that. So
Yeah.
the more you can express respect in terms of being on time, it really makes you stand out, like in a good way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. There's so many times where like I've met people who are just like on the clock, and I know that like as soon as like if there's a certain date and time that they have to be, they'll be there, and I don't have to think about it
Yeah.
because they respect the time, my time.
Yeah.
Right. So I can remember when I was younger, I'll never forget this. So I one time hired this business consultant
Yeah.
to help me with creating a business plan.
Right.
I was like 21 years old or something like that, and I had this crazy idea. and I'm not even sure I can't even recall how I got turned on to this guy, but he was a much older man.
Yeah.
He was retired, had been in business for years, and I had an appointment, and so I had an appointment to go meet with him, and I didn't, and I had an appointment to meet with him, and I was late.
Right.
Right. And so what was interesting was how he reacted to me when I showed up. Right. So I got there and I gave him a whole spew of excuses. I was just like, oh, I'm so sorry, and I just right away I was just like, I'm so sorry, I'm late. And he was like, I could tell right away he was upset. Like he was
Angry?
He was angry with me. Yeah. And then once we sat down, I said, yeah, I'm just so sorry I'm late. And he goes, and he said to me, he goes, he's like, he gets really, really serious with me. He goes, says, when you show up late, says, you're telling me that your time is more important than mine. Right?
Yeah.
And so,
Kind of gave me goosebumps.
yeah. And so then when he said that to me, I was like, you're right. And I was
Yeah.
like,
That's
yeah.
so disrespectful of me.
Yeah. And of course, me being a young 20 something, of course, it's not fully registering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Of
And then, of
course.
course, it takes a number of years for the same thing to be happening to me. So I understand.
Yeah.
And so when he said that to me, he's like, you're saying, like, every time somebody shows up late to something, they're saying, my time is more important than yours. That's how I'm going to disrespect you. Right.
Yeah.
And they may not be consciously saying that, but that's what they're saying in their actions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to practice respect, just show up on time. It's
Yeah.
like such an easy, like it should be an easy thing. And probably a pro tip is simply like, if you have an appointment, set your clock back 5-10 minutes
Yeah.
to make sure you're going to make it.
Yeah. On time. Yeah.
So that you're on time. And that way you can just show respect for everyone.
That's a good story. I actually kind of took that a different way, but the same thing with the respect your timeline. You started kind of talking about that, but where my mind went is I feel like I need, like when a friend or my mom invites me over for dinner, or my mom just wants to come over and spend time with me, I feel like I don't, and this goes for my friends too, I think maybe I don't respect that enough because I've never thought about it. Like they're literally wanting to take their time and spend it with me, but I'm just like, I don't really want to do anything right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I really need to look at it in a different perspective because they literally they're wanting to take their time and spend it with me. I need to be respectful of that and want to too. I mean, sometimes like obviously I have to respect myself first, but yeah, I kind of took that a different way. It's interesting. Okay, and the final one is practice loyalty. Keep your promises no matter what. If you give someone your word, including yourself, keep your word. Be forgiving. People in your life will make mistakes. No one's perfect. Forgive and grow, especially when it comes to yourself. Be committed. Stick to your convictions. Be the person that you rely on. Be the person others can rely on. So yeah, practice loyalty. What do you have to say about that? I just feel like all three of these. So we have loyalty, respect, and honest, and all of those. I feel like they all just intertwine with each other so much. Like if you have one, you kind of have the other.
Yeah. You need to, you have to have all of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that when it comes to loyalty, though, in terms of practicing loyalty, keeping your promises.
Yeah.
Right. It's one thing to be respectful, but then to keep your promises is another. Right. When you say you're going to do something, you do it.
Right.
Do as you say and say as you do.
Do you think it's harder for someone to keep a promise to themselves or to someone else?
It's easier, I think, to keep it to others.
You think?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the person.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, most people tend to be accountable to someone else more than they are to themselves. Only because, and I hate to say this, generally speaking, most people have come from a background of, I don't know how else to put this.
People pleasing.
Not people pleasing, like, so, I'm trying to put this,
Yeah,
you know what? I'm just going to lay it out there.
Yeah.
So most of society is a slave class.
Okay.
Okay. Generally speaking,
yeah.
Like we live in a free society and everything else, and
yeah.
we have a certain amount of freedom, but there is always somebody we have to answer to, right? And we grow up always having to answer to, like, not necessarily just your parents, but you go through a school system which teaches you to always like be accountable to your teacher and do as they say and so forth.
Yeah.
And so it becomes more so like where, like, even just thinking of as like a child, like how quickly they will do something when the teacher asks them to do it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because they want to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So same sort of thing. Like as you grow up, and then you get into some job positions where it's like that. Usually when you're working at like low paying jobs and so forth, it's where you learn the ins and outs of the way the world goes.
Yeah. First jobs.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is that essentially keeping promises to others, it tends to be what we practice more than being taught how to keep promises to ourselves.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Just think about this. I mean, even just think about yourself when you were younger. Like how much emphasis was given to you, like taught to you about how you need to make promises and be good to yourself versus, you got to take care of others, or you got to make sure that you do what others, like when you make a promise. Mostly it has a lot to do with social pressure and things like that.
Yes.
But generally speaking, because we are subservient, that was the word I was looking for, subservient to a higher class. There's kind of like there's lots of layers to it.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we have to keep our promises to others in that way. So I think that that's more powerful than, and even when you think about, there's groups that get together for like losing weight, for example, and they start to declare, like or they'll buddy up, and then now they have to be accountable to each other. Yeah. Right. And so these are extra supports beyond just ourselves. I think that if people were given more of an opportunity to practice how they could keep promises to themselves and give them the right kind of tools, and we'll probably dig more into that as we get more into this building brick, then I think people will be more apt to keeping the promises to themselves than they are now. Yeah. I just think that they are, like, there's always going to be, if somebody, generally speaking, there's always somebody on you, keep your promise, right? So think of like how you make a promise, but then somebody's like, hey, did you do that? Yeah. Right? And so then that happens all the time in everybody's life, right? And without that, oftentimes it's difficult to even practice that.
So something kind of happened right before Christmas with me. I didn't promise I would do it, but I said I would do it. So it was my word, which is pretty much like a promise. Yeah. And it came down to it that I wasn't actually able to do what I said I was going to do. And I stressed and I stressed and I didn't sleep all night and I cried all morning. And finally, I just picked up the phone, called the person who I needed to call and be like, listen, because it was either my family's Christmas comes first or I put this other thing first. Right. So what are you going to do, right? Right. And it was something that was really important. So I felt very, very bad. So anyways, I called the person I needed to and I just flat out admitted, like, look, I can't do this right now. I can do it after Christmas and all this. And it was fine. Completely fine. And I felt so much better. There was no more tears for the rest of the day. I went on with my day, but it was like getting that phone call out of the way. But it was because it was my word. Like I said, I was going to do it and I knew then I couldn't do it. And I felt so bad. Like I could just cry here even thinking about it because I was just heartbroken because it's my word. And like, I want it to be accountable. I want it to be, so yeah, that's just a little story. But I spoke up and I did what I need to do. And I still did deliver, just not when I said, but my second word followed through. So right. And I owned up to my word not following through. It's not like I just dropped it and ignored it or.
Yeah, that just makes it worse.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, I couldn't do that.
and again, that's another way that people show disrespect. Yeah. It's like it's one thing to give your word, but then when you actually just drop it and then just don't even respond to not doing it.
Because sometimes that's easy to do, right?
The easy way.
For them, but not for me. I wouldn't sleep or eat or I'd be stressing.
It becomes something where they think by avoiding it, then they've dodged it completely and it just kind of disappears. Yeah. But guess what? It still affects the people that were involved in that, right? So exactly. That's where
disrespectful.
The disrespect and it lingers and it actually becomes like a cancer, and it can wear away at any relationship. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for part 2 of Faithfulness. Next week is Purity. Stay tuned and we'll see you then.
We'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.